Hello, folks. Thanks for joining in. Hope you're doing well. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just drop a message in the chat. Tulsi, thanks for joining. I will tell the speaker to increase the font size so it will be visible. Awesome. Thank you very much for joining. We hope you had a good Christmas break, and we are now officially in 2021. Unfortunately, the pandemic still continues, so please take care of yourselves. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Happy 2021 to all. So we are happy to announce our first meetup. And for today's session, we will be having our guest speaker as Sreekar Achanta. Now, Sreekar Achanta is a site reliability engineer at Axelerant. Sreekar Achanta will be talking about the basics of container orchestration engines, an overview of what container orchestration engine is, and then it'll be a deep dive on OpenShift, and rather it'll be a deep dive on OKD, which is OpenShift for Kubernetes. And before I hand over to Sreekar, let me just add him onto the stream. You can say hi to Sreekar. Hey, Sreekar, thanks for joining, and thank you very much for spending your time. I know we had a lot of back and forth over our talk, and I really want to say thank you once again for being patient with us and spending your time. Yeah, so chat, say hi to Sreekar. Before I let Sreekar hand over, before I let Sreekar take over the session, I wanted to let you know that as part of keeping a regular cadence, we will be continuing a meetup every month. Usually we'll have it around the same time, which is the third Friday of the month. If you have any topics that you want us to cover, or if you're interested in speaking about something related to AWS, drop in a message here in chat, or drop in a message in, or drop us an email, info@AWSUGBLR. Let me just write it down for you. So drop us an email, and yeah, we will collect it, and we will try to schedule some talks accordingly. Or if you want to give a talk, please feel free to reach us out. And if you have any questions about today's topic, about OKD, feel free to drop in a comment in chat. I will collect them all, and after Sreekar is done with his talk and his demo, what I will do is we'll have a small Q&A session. And once the Q&A session is done, and if you have any further questions, please we'll try to wrap it up after that. Okay. So thank you. Sreekar, a request from our viewers. If you're doing a demo which has any small text, just increase the text size, just maximize it a little bit, or zoom in so that the viewers can see. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Sreekar.
Hey, hello, folks. Thank you for joining in today. I'm really glad that I was selected for presenting the session today at the AWS Users Bangalore. This is where I started my attending of open source events, and I'm glad that I was able to be a speaker today. Long journey, and I'm loving it. So let me quickly share my screen. All right, so welcome once again to this session. So this is the topic name. I would be presenting about how to deploy OKD, which is the community version of Red Hat OpenShift container platform. And I would show how to deploy this, and also how do we what are our expectations around using, what are our experiences using OKD in our enterprise. So this is a bit about me, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. So how to install OKD 4.x. Well, this is how you install. This is the command to install so that you have a OKD cluster up and running. That's it. Any questions? I'm just kidding. No, because in our organization also we had one of our colleague who just told that you just give one command and boom, your cluster is up. So I thought I'll bring that thing into this conversation.
We all love that, wouldn't it? If it was one single enter.
Alright, so just I guess. Okay. Right, so I hope you guys are still able to see me. Can anybody confirm, please?
Yes, Sreekar, it's going fine.
All right. So before we get into OKD or what is OKD or what is OpenShift, let's take a step back and first try to understand what are container orchestration engines. So, well, the image says you are managing multiple containers, or in Kubernetes or OpenShift language, you would say pods. So all about managing the life cycle of containers, especially in a large and dynamic environments. So a container orchestration engine, it's as you know, would help us in provisioning and deployment of containers, and it also scales up or removes the containers to spread application load evenly across all the hosting infrastructure. And also these container orchestration engines are used for movement of containers from one host to another if there is a shortage of resources in a host or if a host dies. And other usages about the container orchestration engines are they help in load balancing of service discovery between containers. We also have health monitoring of the containers and the hosts that are embedded inside this. And also we have our configuration of an application in related to the containers running in it. So you can also configure your application infrastructure using these container orchestration engines, which are in short called COEs. So these are some of the COEs in the market: Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, OpenShift, Rancher, and Nomad. Particularly, I'm very much interested in Kubernetes and the OpenShift. There are also other uh, managed platforms for managed Kubernetes services that we have in the market today, like EKS. And but in this particular session, as we are focusing on OpenShift or OKD, let's get started. So, what exactly is OpenShift? If you see at the image, you see two things here: one, the engine, and the car. So it's like a car is a product that immediately makes you up productive. It is ready to get you where you want to go. And the engine in return won't get you anywhere unless you assemble it with other essential components that will form in in the end. That is the car. It's like the car is a complete product that is built on top of an engine. So in the same essence, you can think of Kubernetes as being the engine that drives the OpenShift. And OpenShift is considered to be as a complete car. Hence, it is one of the famous platform as a service tool. And if you on the other side, if you want to see, you can say Kubernetes is considered to be the kernel, and OpenShift is considered to be a distribution. It's like OpenShift is basically a distribution of Kubernetes focused on the experience of developers who have the need to develop the next generation of cloud native applications. So, for example, like the main reason why OpenShift became famous is that because it has a developer friendly features as well. Just like how Kubernetes, I mean, leaving OpenShift a developer tool as well. As we know, Kubernetes is entirely an administrator's tool, OpenShift is designed on top of it to give a good experience to the developers as well. A developer also can manage infrastructure or can manage their application in UAT or production. However, we don't do that in real time, but OpenShift allows you to do that. Like any developer also can take up the chance of hosting or managing their infrastructure or the applications in the production. And apart from that, if you ask me what exactly is OpenShift, basically OpenShift at the heart is Kubernetes, and it's like 100% certified Kubernetes, fully open source and non-proprietary. In the sense, the API to the OpenShift cluster is 100% Kubernetes. So if you come here, if you see, I connected to one of the OpenShift cluster. So we have just like how we have kubectl in Kubernetes, for which is a utility that queries the API server for information. In the sense, like kubectl get pods would give you all the pods that are running inside the namespace called OpenShift console. And if you run the OC get pods, you get the same output. It's just that the client is different. Here in OpenShift, we use OC client, which is OpenShift client, and there in Kubernetes, we use kubectl. So if you see here, the API to the OpenShift cluster is 100% Kubernetes, and nothing changes between a container running on any Kubernetes platform and OpenShift. And also it doesn't have any change to the application as well. So you might ask, well, what exactly is OpenShift? Why do you want to like you say OpenShift is already Kubernetes or is a certified Kubernetes? What does it bring onto the table? Well, if you see the screen, here are some of the things that Red Hat OpenShift is bringing it onto the table. It adds value features to complement Kubernetes, and that's what it makes a turnkey platform. Also, if you see the images, if you're aware of Kubernetes, you have many other components which are just integrated. In the sense, you have to integrate along with Kubernetes and then use it. But here, if in OpenShift, if you see, there are already all the features available by default in the installation for you to make use of them, like Prometheus, Grafana, Elasticsearch, all these things. And apart from that, you also have all the operators also at the integrated along, just like how you have it in the Kubernetes. All right, so now that we spoke about OpenShift till date, let's see what is OKD. So basically, OKD is nothing but an open source version of OpenShift. Just like how Red Hat open sources its work in the same way as RHEL and CentOS. It's even in the container orchestration engine also, OpenShift actually has open sourced, or Red Hat has open sourced is OpenShift tool and named it as OKD, which is Community Distribution of OpenShift. So it was previously called as OpenShift Origin, but is renamed now to OKD. So in a way, if you see, Kubernetes and OKD are both open source projects. So when we want to improve or add features to OpenShift, so the work is actually done in the uh, upstreaming version, which is the Kubernetes version. And then once a Kubernetes release comes up, that's when the actual work for the OKD or the OpenShift starts. And then Red Hat then packages the project OKD along with a number of other projects like Maestra, various operators, or other resources into Red Hat OpenShift container platform or Red Hat OpenShift, and then it releases into the market. So after the work of cutting a release of Kubernetes ends, the work of packaging OKD and then later OpenShift begins. So that's how OKD is actually released as part of the regular cycles. So now that we have enough of theory, let's see what we need in order to install OKD. So basically we need these things, which is an AWS account with administrative privileges and programmatic access to AWS. So one more thing I wanted to inform is that the reason why we chose AWS over other cloud providers, I would actually want to discuss that as well, and I would discuss that in the upcoming slides. So coming back to this, we need SSH keys that needs to be copied to the nodes if you want to actually log into the nodes, and then TLS certificates, and you also have to choose what kind of authentication you want into your OpenShift, and you also need a valid hosted zone in Route 53. That is one of the important things. And also, if you want if you want to host persistent volumes, then you can make use of EFS volumes, so which is an optional item. So installation of OKD on AWS actually has two ways. One is quick install and another one is custom install. So quick install is nothing but just executing the command. However, we want to use a custom install because we want to have some different parameters selected before we kick off the installation. All right. So let's see a demo. So I've actually downloaded my OpenShift installer. So sorry, I have it. So this is the GitHub page for OKD. I have already shared that in one of the in the references section. So we have to download our OKD binaries from this website. So I downloaded a version which is 12134, which it is there already. And what you have to do is you have to download and extract it into a folder. So once you extract it, this is what you get it. This is the installer for OpenShift. So as part of the
Sreekar, sorry to interrupt you. Can you just zoom in on your console? I think Command plus plus should be fine.
Is it fine?
Can you do ls? I think it should be fine. Yeah. Thanks.
No problem. If you see here, this is my version that I've downloaded, and I've extracted that. So I went inside the OpenShift install folder, and so I referred the OpenShift installation for installing OKD. So I've also included this in my references section. So some of the key things that as I've already discussed are here. A configuration of an AWS account, you have an SSH key, and then you have to obtain installation program. So I already showed you how to download that. And then the next step is we have to create an installation configuration file, which I would actually show now. So this is the command OpenShift install create install config, and I'm creating that configuration file in the current directory. So this will actually ask us few questions related to domain and other settings. So we have to make sure we are what is that? We are entering that so that we can customize the configuration file. So it asks me what is my public key that I want. So I want to use this one. Then it will ask you the different cloud platforms. So since I want AWS, I'll just select AWS, and it'll ask me for regions. So I'm selecting AP South 1. And this is my domain that I want to select. So I'll select for that, and it's asking me for a cluster name. So you can give a customer name as okay, I'll give as platform. And for pull secret, I have to talk a bit about it now here. So in case of pull secret, what happens is that there is a pull secret that you have to maintain in order to actually just a minute. Just a minute, I missed that somewhere. Oh, let me stop sharing for a minute, please.
Yeah, no worries. I've taken you off.
Sorry about that. So pull secret is something like, so pull secret comes into place when you have uh, like this is the differentiation between an OKD and an OpenShift installer version. So as you said, as you have seen, we have OpenShift, which is the premium product name is called OpenShift. What do you say? It's OpenShift Container Platform. So basically, OpenShift Container Platform is the premium product, which is the actual offering by the Red Hat. Okay, and in order for you to distinguish between OKD and OpenShift Container Platform, this is what we would this particular step would actually make a difference. So I'm just sharing my screen again. All right, so back to my screen. Okay, so full secret, I will actually paste that somewhere for the reference. So it's nothing but it's a blank full secret. Full secret is nothing but Red Hat gives you when you register for OpenShift Container Platform, you will have to once you log in into the Red Hat site, that's where you will have a utility to generate the full secret. And once you put the full secret inside this installation, that's when OpenShift registers that as one of your running clusters. So your subscription, your billing, everything would be that's how it is tracked using this particular pull secret. So since we want to use the community edition, I've just this is a blank pull secret, that blank value for the pull secret which I'm using. So I'll click enter. So it has created a configuration file if you want to see. So this is a configuration file. I've given the domain, and few other settings are there here. Control plane settings. How many replicas of master node do I want? So these are all the default settings. So I want 3 master and 3 worker nodes, and this is my CIDR range that is going to get selected, and this is the value that I've pasted in the pull secret. So now that we have the installation configuration file, we have to now install the cluster. Yep. So the command is OpenShift install create cluster, and you are referencing the current the configuration file from the local directory. So so this is how the installation will be kicked off. It's as you saw, it's just few steps that you actually would do. So I already have created my credentials inside this AWS folder. For security reasons, I don't want to show that. So it'll pick from my default profile of AWS. So while this gets created, since I thought we would be it will take a lot of time for creating the cluster. So for that reason, I already have a ready-made cluster that I've created some time back. So I can show you the look and feel of the cluster or the OpenShift environment, and then I would also show the a sample application deployment. So our application basically is a stack of Drupal and MySQL. So I would also we have the application also ready from where I'll trigger the pipeline, and it will actually come and deploy the application on the OpenShift infrastructure. And by the time, I think this should also be created. So just a minute, I'll stop sharing before I log into the cluster. All right, I have logged into the cluster. Let me come back and share my screen. All right, so yeah. So this is our OpenShift cluster that I've created. So this is the actually homepage of the OKD. So just that you can see, if you're aware of, other Kubernetes platforms or managed Kubernetes platforms, you basically might not have this kind of UI. However, in OpenShift, you have this UI that gives you access. This is where the developers have a lot of advantage, and you can also create uh, any of your definition deployments, anything from the UI as well, just like how the administrators actually created from uh, the command line. You can actually do, anybody who has access can actually go ahead and do it. For example, see, we have these persistent volumes. There are many cron jobs. These many pods are running, and like these are the number of pods that are running in all the projects. So just to get back to explaining how things work here, in uh, in OKD, there is a concept called projects, which will actually isolate the environment. For example, if I want to deploy one application, let's say some helloworld.com. So I want to run that in an isolated environment. So in OpenShift, you have a facility to create a project, separate project, and then you can run your workloads inside that project. And same way, for example, if you're working in a multi-dev environment where there are many developers who are working continuously and developing things around. So if you want, you can also host something called multi-dev environment, where for every developer you can create one project and have the developer play around inside that project. Thereby they don't have to disturb others, or others don't get disturbed by their work. So every developer will get an extra project. So these are all configurable, and you can actually do all of that stuff easily using OKD. So I will now deploy a sample application. So this is one of my sample application that I actually would want to deploy. So just a minute. Okay, so this is my run pipeline. So I have my branch, which is OKD4, that I've created for the sake of this particular demo. So I'll just create this. So there are three stages in this, which is initial deploy, deploy to OS, and another one is stop if you want to clean up. So what this project does is it will create a separate project called webinars. See this? This is the one. It's just created. If you see, it's just created. So it will create, and then it will create different pods. So one is the application pod, which is a Drupal pod. Another one is a MySQL pod, which is running as two different pods. So see, this is my YAML files. You can even edit the YAML file from this console, and then if you save, automatically the workloads that are running or using this YAML file would get the updated configuration. So you have a lot of advantages from the screen itself or from the console itself instead of so it also has an overview tab where it shows you the utilization and any recent events here, whatever is happening. See, if you see here, these are all the events that are currently happening inside. And it will also show you the inventory, like how many deployments, how many deployment configs, how many stateful sets, pods, all this stuff. So it looks pretty interesting, at least for me. And uh, yeah, so this is particularly, maybe this would also take some time while my infrastructure is getting created here. Let's get back to the presentation. Yep. So while the demo is happening or while the application deployment is happening, I would want to share our OKD, uh, running OKD, and what were some of the issues that we have faced in the our issues or what is our experience around running OKD. So initially, when we started to explore things for why we want to like for a container orchestration engine, we found that there are many engines, many containerization engines or managed cloud platforms. But one of our customers requirement is that they wanted uh, uh, a complete solution a complete solution which is more of like a platform as a service. So, well, yes, other platform managed service providers for Kubernetes also are a good platform as a service, but they wanted also developers to have a good experience. They wanted developers to individually take control of their workloads. So that's when we explored what is OpenShift, and that's what we thought we'll go ahead with OKD. The reason why we chose OKD over OpenShift container platform is that OKD is purely community based. We have a lot of community support for that. And when it comes to OpenShift container platform, the difference is that you have a premium support from the Red Hat. So apart from support, you also have an advantage to use uh, Red Hat images for open in the OpenShift container platform. Well, that also is there in OKD. You have already images baked in AWS ready-made. So the reason why we chose AWS now for running our OKD is that we also ran our workloads on another cloud provider. I'm not sure if I can tell the name or not, but the reason why we didn't have basically it's DigitalOcean. So the reason why we chose AWS over DigitalOcean, or initially we deployed that on DigitalOcean, what happened was that DigitalOcean had some disadvantages, like the cluster autoscaler. Basically, cluster autoscaler is something which will actually help you in configuring autoscaling for your cluster. So that is something uh, isn't supported in DigitalOcean. Another one is that uh, the storage. We were not able to create read write many storage access modes in DigitalOcean. That is also one of our pressing issue why we couldn't consider running. And also, though we have uh, OKD installer for AWS, we don't have proper installer for DigitalOcean. We had to write our own scripts, Terraform scripts, to run OKD on DigitalOcean. Whereas all these drawbacks, whatever I've told till now, we have everything ready made in AWS. That's as you know, AWS has a lot of good things in it, along with the latest features. It's not only the uh, having the latest. I mean, it has a plethora of services, but it has support, end-to-end support for OpenShift as well. And apart from that, if we want to, uh, uh, so there is something called OKD support for Fedora images. So in dissolution, we didn't have that support because we don't have any Fedora images or instances. What we had to do is that we had to create a snapshot and other things, and then export that or import that into dissolution, because basically the master and worker nodes run on Fedora images. So that is basically not there in the dissolution. And these are some of our issues that we had on dissolution. And also, apart from that, when we were running workloads on dissolution, well, this is not a dissolution problem, but this is a problem with OKD. We were running 3.11 version, which actually doesn't have support for multi-master. So in the present version that I've shown you now, there we have multi-master, like 3 masters and 3 workers. But for that, this kind of support started only from the 4.0 versions. Till date, till 3.11, we didn't have multi-master. So as we started increasing our workloads, it was having a lot of problem, because we had almost like 20 worker nodes and a lone master node serving all these worker nodes. So that was also becoming tough for us. And this is also creating a lot of resource crunch issues, and it used to actually what do you say, eat up a lot of eat up a lot of resources on the platform, or it used to slow down the applications. And apart from that, we also have there was also an issue with running parallel builds whenever we tried that. So these were all our pressing issues as to why we chose for an alternative. And as soon as we thought of changing, we first thought about AWS. And the beauty of AWS is that we have all the images pre-baked in AWS ready. Just as you saw how I deployed it just with few commands. I didn't even log in into the AWS console except for creation of my credential or something else. So it's out of box, everything is there in AWS. And another important thing is that the cluster autoscaler that is there in AWS, which actually helps in enabling autoscaling in OKD. As you know, autoscaling is very important for any cloud native application or any modern application these days. So that is there. It's like a batteries included for AWS. It's already there, and we just have to use that in our environment. So yeah, I think these were some of the recommendations that we have, or our experiences running OKD in our environment. So these are some of the reference sections that I've used for presenting this session. I will share this slide deck after the presentation, and maybe you guys can go through the different links. And lastly, it's a Q&A. We'll have that in a few minutes. I'll just go back to my environment and show how things are progressing. So, all right. So I guess my pipelines have passed. Okay. So if you see, my pipelines have passed here, and both my workloads are running. So if you see here, one pod, and let me go here. Yeah, this is my URL. If I click on my URL, it's loading up the page. Right. So, well, this is my test site that I've deployed. This is called Webinars project. So this is our internal knowledge sharing platform that we use at our company. So it's so if you go back here, it deployed it created a project for me called Webinars, and it created all these objects. So if you see here, this is one dump, MySQL dump, another build stage, deploy, and few other pods. So if you see, you can see the status of all of them here. And you can also see, so we didn't use deployments, we use deployment configs. So if you see here, this is how, and if you want to log in, you can just go here. This is the individual pod. If you go here, it will show you all the environment variables, all that stuff. And then, yeah, this is the YAML file. Yep. You can increase pods or you can decrease pods here from the UI itself. So, and it also, if you see here, it is displaying. So we have two containers inside my pod, which is Drupal and Nginx, which is app and web server. And it will show you what are the volumes and what are the conditions. So let's go back. So my OKD cluster is still coming up. It takes about 40 minutes, so I think we are maybe short by another few minutes. So while this gets running, I want to have let's have some questions.
Thanks, Sreekar. Sure, we can do some questions. But yeah, thanks. We have a whole variety of questions, but let's take them. This one, I know you did it at the start, but I guess you can just summarize it. The question is basically, who introduced OKD, and is OKD a product for which company? What is the history, if you have?
Sure. So OKD is introduced by Red Hat. So Red Hat, after Kubernetes has come, Red Hat has designed a product on top of Kubernetes, which is called OpenShift. So OpenShift is the base of OKD. So OKD is the community version, like the open source version of OpenShift. Just like how we have Red Hat, Enterprise Linux, and CentOS. CentOS is the community version of Red Hat Linux that Red Hat has open source. Same way, they open sourced OKD from which is a OpenShift, which is actually derived from OpenShift. I hope
So
that
so the basic differentiator between those two would be enterprise support.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Thanks. The next one is the install that you did. Is it a limited functionality one, or I guess not, because you have showcased everything. But yeah,
No.
let's.
The installation, we have two ways of installing it. The custom install has a lot of options. So if you, in the references sections, I've mentioned the links. So if you go to the custom install or the quick install, that's where you get a lot of options. Like in the custom install section, you have a lot of parameters that you can pass inside this YAML file, the configuration file. So when OKD installation kicks up, that's when it will take all those parameters and then it will configure the OKD installation.
Okay, thanks. Next, we have a couple of related questions. One is actually I think it's the same one. It's basically how many instances of EC2 would be needed, how many nodes, how many workers.
So that depends on you. So in my case, the default one is 3 masters and 3 workers. But you can even start with 1 or 2. I mean, by the as you saw, we created the configuration file, right? The YAML file. So you can get into that file and you can change the number of instances.
Okay, cool.
By default, you get only 3, and you can increase it.
Yeah. Have you done any sort of load tests or performance to see how much of a workload this would support? I know obviously it depends a lot on what kind of applications you're running, whether they're memory intensive, whether they're CPU intensive. But I guess, yeah, I think I just answered my question because, but yeah, if you have any insights, it's like if you've done any stress testing, like pushed it to the edge or something like that.
Yeah, so we actually did stress testing because before we started moving our applications from the previous platform to our OKD platform, we did a lot of stress testing. So we had almost 10 different applications that we actually deployed at a time on OKD. different by using pipelines. So at that point of time, we had almost like our instances were M5X large.
Okay.
So yeah, so I guess if I'm not wrong, we might have had like about 8 to 9 worker nodes after
Okay.
we did all those applications. Yeah, I mean those applications are already resource intensive, so that's the
Yeah.
reason why we had to increase our what do you say, the applications, the number of nodes,
Yeah.
worker
I
nodes.
saw that the application you deployed is actually Drupal. Now, Drupal is known to be fairly resource intensive.
Yes, yes.
The next one by Ajay, and I think this pertains to the persistence you mentioned that you need EFS. Ajay was asking if EBS back volumes will not work.
So basically, you use EFS for EBS is basically you want to use for your I mean your OS or database installation, but this is a file storage, right? So we use EFS for that. So you can use EFS for your persistent volumes, which will actually save the data or kind of files. So EFS is the recommended one. If you wanted to try something on the open source version, then you have something called Open EBS. Yeah.
Okay. Next, we have a question by Lohit. What is the level of difficulty to install and maintain OKD on-prem?
Well, I feel that it is not that hard. We have been doing that from almost like 1.5 years now. From our experience, it is. It's just like how you maintain your on-premise environment. Lot of, the updates are also very seamless. Unless you don't want the overhead of maintaining it, OKD is pretty much easy to maintain or manage on-premise environment. So, sorry. So you were saying on-premise. So, but our case was on purely in the cloud. I cannot comment on that on-premise, but from what I've read online and in my previous company as well, they already have this on-premises running on VMware, and they say that it is good. I mean, the upgrades might be a little tough there, but that was a previous case. Now with the version 4.0 and above, the updates have been addressed. The upgrades have been addressed, and it is seamless now.
Nice. That's good to hear, because here, for me, part of the thing about running any cluster is seamless upgrades, especially when you have persistent data stores. Trying to migrate workloads from one version to a new version. And on that note, have you had any issues, not just from OKD, also from Kubernetes? Because personally, I've not used a lot of Kubernetes. The last time when I used Kubernetes was maybe 2017-18, where things were a lot simpler. There were no operators, there was no CRDs. It was, now when I look at Kubernetes, right, there's so much complexity, it just makes my head spin. So have you had any difficulties, issues, or any specific pain points that you would want to just mention? Maybe one pain point or anything like that.
Like pain points in maintaining the infrastructure by
anything, infrastructure or deploys or whatever it is.
Yes. So the problem that I've seen is that if you see EKS, you don't have to manage anything in EKS.
Right.
So that advantage we lack that in OKD. I can clearly see that, because in EKS you have everything managed, self-managed thing. It's just that you want to take some details for your application deployment. But if you see in OKD, all you have to do is you have to manage that. That is one thing. But even that also is a kind of addressed here. It's not like it's not that hard. But if you ask me in comparison, yes, definitely there is a bit of workload overhead here in managing OKD on cloud or on premise.
Okay, cool. Next one, I think it should be a fairly straightforward, but the question is, are operators available on OKD?
Yes, there are different operators that are available on OKD.
So, Tulsi, just for some context, OKD is what is known as a distribution. Now, for a piece of software to be officially tagged as a Kubernetes distribution, there's a huge variety of tests it needs to it needs to meet and exceed those compliance tests. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, it's been a long time since I've looked at it, and I'm pretty sure those compliance tests have been added more and more on. But yeah, some of the things, basics like operators and the standard Kubernetes primitives like deployment, stateful sets, these have to be part of any distribution.
True.
Next question by Tulsi again. Which EC2 image did you use? Not sure if it was an instance or an image, but you can, I think the instance you mentioned as M5 XL.
Yeah, MX5 large.
Yeah. And any specific image, or did you build your own AMI, or how was it?
No, so we used the default one that came with OpenShift. We haven't used anything in our choice. It is part of the installer. Installer will use the Fedora-based images, and it will deploy the cluster.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks. So we're coming down to last couple of questions. If you still have any questions, please feel free to drop me a message. If there's anything you would like to know, drop in a message. Else we'll just wrap it up soon. Again, the next question by Tulsi. It's not really about OpenShift or Kubernetes, but I think he was curious to know about the pipeline thing you were talking about.
Okay.
I think that's a GitLab specific thing.
Okay, so we have used GitLab. We use GitLab for our CI/CD. So we already have the GitLab CI GitLab CI.yaml file, which is the pipeline file in GitLab. So we mention all our pipeline instructions in that. So our pipeline instruction is such a way that for every branch, it needs to create a separate project, and it has to go and deploy the workload. So in our case, we have two pods, which is database and application. The application pod has two containers. One is the web server, Nginx, and the application, which is Drupal. So these three containers in the form of two pods are deployed on OpenShift. So and also it creates various persistent volumes, and it also has a couple of cron jobs also that will run few tasks as part of the application working of application.
Yeah. So to add to what Sreekar mentioned, now when I'm deploying any piece of hobby or any small software that I run or I want to experiment on, I would usually just write some commands or just do a kubectl apply -f and whatever it is, and it's run. But most of the companies, most of the big orgs, especially when they have a lot of structure in them, this doesn't really scale because there's going to be a lot of problems, a lot of confusions on who deployed what, and there's going to be a lot of compliance related requirements as well. Like they need to know when a specific piece of version was deployed. So what happens is a lot of these people they build what is known as pipelines, which is a pipeline is like it's a linear piece. Like you do first step, and then you do a second step, and you do a third step, and up to an end step. In this specific case, Sreekar showed GitLab. You can do the same with Jenkins, with Drone. There are n number of CI/CD tools that are there. You can use code build, code pipeline, whatever it is. It's up to you. If you never use pipelines, I think you should definitely go just search for it. There's a lot of information. Once you start using pipelines, it's going to be very hard to go back to the usual style. Prateek mentioned in the region section, it was not showing all regions of AWS.
Okay, so actually it will show. It's just that we have to scroll down. I wanted to show that. Thank you, Prateek, for bringing that up. Actually, I wanted to show show down that it has options. If you press the arrow, it will actually take you through all the options. So
Yeah,
since
cool.
my AWS configuration file has my default region as Mumbai, so it will pop up that when I'm running the cluster wizard.
Right. Thanks. Yeah, just wanted to confirm that there's no specific region dependencies on OKD or anything like that. But it shouldn't be. But it's better
Yeah,
to get the answer from you.
so there is one scenario. So, for example, sometimes we don't have availability of MX5 large in some regions. For example, couple of days when I was trying to run do a dry run, I was installing that in Mumbai region. So at that point of time, the installation failed, saying that we don't have MX5 large currently in AP South 1. In one of the
Okay.
availability called 1A. It is there in 1B and 1C, but it is not there in 1A. So it actually failed, saying that the instance availability is not there. But this is one-off case because we have done it so many times, and this is the first time that I've experienced that this particular issue.
I think Hotstar took away all the M5 instances because I know they also have a lot of workloads running.
Okay.
Anyway, last couple of questions. Is it possible to auto-scale pods on the basis of custom CloudWatch metrics? Interesting question.
Yeah, very interesting question. Auto-scale pod, custom CloudWatch metrics. Actually speaking, we haven't tried that, but I think I will note that down for my testing. But to answer your question, I'm really sorry that I don't have any experience running auto scaling of pods based on CloudWatch metrics.
Maybe we can have another session on auto scaling on different metrics and
Yes.
on standard CPUs, memory, and custom CloudWatch metrics. Sreekar would be happy to have you back.
I will include a blog post on that, and I will share it on my LinkedIn and Twitter.
Yeah, sure. Yep. That'll be good. Thanks. How to connect an external database like Oracle or SQL Server running in on-premise once we set up OKD in AWS?
So you want to, like, for example, you are running this database is for your application. If it is for application, yeah, you have to include that in your application configuration. Not only Oracle database, you can connect any database for that matter. It's just that in the application configuration, you have to mention that.
Yeah, on a more general basis, usually what happens is a lot of the on-prem systems do not have connectivity with AWS. So because of compliance or whatever reasons, usually the way to go about it is to set up something like Direct Connect, where there's a private line between the on-premise and an AWS. And after that, just a standard connect string, a host name that should be able to resolve it, and just wrap that the database URL as part of your config map or as your environment variable. I think that should do it. Sanjeev, I hope that answered your question. Tulsi has one more final request. Please print the AMI image. He's very interested in knowing what AMI you're running on.
All right. I'll do that right away. Just give me a few minutes. Let's check for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So while Sreekar is doing that, once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We will have a next virtual meetup in February. And if you have any topics that we would like us to cover, or if you have any topics that you want to show, like Sreekar reached out to us personally over email and said that, hey, I'm interested in this. And we have a couple of more sessions coming up where the people from the community themselves have reached out to us and said that they're interested. So please feel free to reach out. We are not inaccessible. You can reach us at info@AWS we'd be more than happy to give you a shot to talk about all things AWS. free tier, Tulsi has one more question. If free tier will work. I don't think free tier will work. I mean, it could theoretically work, but practically by the time the cluster is up, I think you're going to run out of your credits and
No, so by default, if I'm not wrong, free tier won't work because it needs a minimum requirement. So that's why it checks MX5 large instance.
Oh, okay. So if you change it in the config also, it will reject that, saying that I need at least an M5X large or something like that.
In the config also, we actually can't change that particular thing.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, in config also, we actually don't have that setting, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. I have a YAML file. I'm just checking that. So yeah, true. We don't have an option to go and change the instance type. So that's why it is. I mean, this is all mentioned again in the section, the installation section. It'll actually show you all these things that these instances will be required. So one word of caution: it will definitely be, if you're testing it, please do delete the cluster once you test it, because
yeah, you don't want to get any complex bills, or don't want to get any large bills.
Yep.
And to the free tier or not, Rangaswamy has a very valid point that you need 2 vCPUs for every node minimum to run Kubernetes. And Amal mentions regarding the instance availability, it's better to choose an AZ than the default one shown by AWS. So here's a fun fact, probably not known to you, but what AWS randomizes the availability zone that is assigned to every customer. So what is 1A to Sreekar is not necessarily 1A to me. Exactly. They do that exactly because a lot of times, when we get overwhelmed, we don't bother changing any of the same defaults. So it used to happen that everyone would select USC's 1A, and they'd be having issues like this. But yeah. I mean, for large orgs, just to maintain some levels of sanity, you can request your TAMs, your technical account managers, to say that, hey, is it possible to get for everything running in our org to have a sort of a uniform, so that it's easier for them to debug and things like that. GCP randomizes that, so does AWS, so does Azure. Yeah, and you can actually go to the EC2 dashboard. You'll see a AZ ID, which will be USE 1ZA, something like that. So yeah, it'll be there. But regardless, that's a very valid point. The default AWS shown AZ might not be the most cheapest one. It's good to experiment and see, and it's probably even better to choose something which is closest to you to reduce latency as well. And Sreekar, did you manage to get that AMI image ID?
I'm trying.
Yeah. I think if not, it's fine, because you can you used the OpenShift funds, right? And I think the OKD documentation will have all the details about how to get started with it and whatnot. So I think we're fine for that.
So,
but yeah, go ahead, please.
I mean, I'm actually just trying to log into my AWS console.
Okay.
My password is wrong.
But anyway, Rangaswamy, Amal, Sanjeev, thank you very much for your comments and for getting the conversation rolling. That's the one thing which I really miss about physical meetups, is that it's the virtual meetups. We try to, as much as possible, to have a little bit of engagement, but the reality is, when you're in a physical meetup, it's always easier to just listen into when someone else is saying, and then you can easily get the conversation going on.
I have the image name. It is as a Fedora Core OS. Yeah, I can paste it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Paste it in private chat. Let me just paste it in.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Fedora Core OS, that's the one that OpenShift installs while deploying the OpenShift cluster.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. Sreekar, any last thoughts?
I think I'm good. I would like to thank everybody for attending this session. And I'm really sorry if you think that I had hiccups in the middle. I'm really sorry about that. I hope you had an informative session. If at all you have any questions now or in future, you can please direct them to my LinkedIn or Twitter. I would be very much happy to answer them. And I will also, as one of our friend asked about the cloud metrics, I would definitely go back and check on that, and I'll try to write a blog post so that that's also learning for me. And it's an interesting question. Thank you so much again. And I would like to thank AWS User Group Bangalore for giving me this opportunity. And like, it's a dream for me to speak on this platform. I just started attending their sessions from last December. After the reInvent, the first session that I attended was the recap by Suman. So that's when I felt, okay, I've missed a lot all these years. I've been staying in Bangalore from 10 years. So I thought, okay, from last 9 years, I'm not doing anything and I'm missing such a big platform. So I'm glad that I was able to present a session in the same platform that I wanted to be part of. I would like to thank you, Satya, and your team for approving my session.
So there's no approval. We just wanted someone to talk, and we're always happy to have any of our community members come and share their knowledge, share their thoughts, experiences, because we don't want us to keep talking about the same thing over and over because you get tunnel vision and whatnot. But thanks again, Sreekar. So you can get in touch with Sreekar. I posted a couple of links. One is for the AWS UGBLR. That is our blog post. That blog post has a link to Sreekar's LinkedIn. You can reach him out from there. I will also update this blog post with the embed of this video. And yeah, anything else? 1 minute.
So one thing I wanted to say is that the installation is just completed.
Awesome, just in time.
Am I sharing my screen? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did.
All right. So this is the console, the first console that we have after we install OKD. So this is see if you see here, it is finished successfully in 30 minutes. So it will give you kubeadmin user and the password also. So just paste the password. Yep. This is my cluster I've just created. Right now, there is nothing you will see because there are nothing except the default. These are all the system, kube system, or whatever you say, like the default project that for running all the OpenShift related container workloads. So if you see, OpenShift has these many workloads that are running as part of the default installation. So from here, you can actually set up different things. You can grant access to users and other stuff.
Yep. Awesome.
It got right at the moment when we are ending it completed.
Yeah, it's always good to see and ensure that your demo was successful without any problems, just in time. But yeah, thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining in. We'll see you next month. If more of you put forward your sessions, then we can have these events more frequently. So don't hesitate. There's nothing to be afraid of. We'll help you. We can guide you. We can help you review your slides if you want. Yeah, just feel free to reach us out. And yeah, thanks again. Thank you, Sreekar, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.